Chapter 3. Toofer wants fruit too.
What have you got in your bag?
Pilk had walked straight into Toofer. Toofer was a very large caveman, about half the size of a baby mammoth, with arms like a great woolly bear and legs like hairy tree trunks, and a heavy brow with bushy eyebrows that merged into one, and hung over his not very bright little black beady eyes. Things had been going so well. Only minutes before, Pilk had been celebrating his triumph at the lagoon by singing as he went along. "We are the champions of the forest." I think he may have invented a kind of rock music that day, or maybe it was stone music. He was so pleased with himself, and he thought, what could possibly go wrong? Toofer, that's what could go wrong. Toofer was, how can we say this kindly, a bit, well, Neanderthal. In plain language, not very bright. You didn't want to meet Toofer on a dark night. To be honest, you didn't want to meet Toofer at any time, unless you liked being flattened. Toofer had a small brain that could only think about one thing, and that was food. Oh, and bashing things, with his bashing stick. He had found a large heavy lump of wood that had a thin end that made it perfect for swinging around his head and bashing things with. And that was all he did with it, bash things. It didn't seem to matter to him how big or how small something was, he would still try bashing it. If he ever saw a small defenceless little rodent running around minding its own business, not bothering anybody, bash. And if he was out foraging for food, something that he wasn't very good at, and he came across a tree with nuts or berries or fruit, he wouldn't try climbing it like most other people. He was too large and clumsy for that. No, not Toofer. Bash. Yeah, he'd smash it with his stick. But sometimes, amazingly, that would actually work. This one time, there was a fly that was annoying him by flying around his head. And what do you think he did? Yes, you've guessed it. He tried to swat it with his bashing stick, and bash. He knocked himself out that time. But he hasn't tried to do that since, so perhaps even Toofer's tiny brain can retain some useful information.
I said, what have you got in your bag?
Toofer asked again.
Show me.
Toofer swung his heavy stick around menacingly. Oh, I don't think it's anything you would like, Toofer, Pilk stammered.
What do you mean? Said Toofer. I eat anything.
That was true, actually. Toofer did eat anything, which was somewhat surprising because he only had one tooth. That was why he was called Toofer. But he seemed to manage quite well with his one tooth and his bashing stick.
Show me what is in your bag, or I will bash you,
Toofer said, and he raised his bashing stick to prove the point. Pilk knew he had no choice. He pulled the yellow fruit out of his bag, and he held it out.
Yes, I will eat that,
Toofer said excitedly, and he stepped forward to grab the fruit. But Pilk took a quick step back and said, wouldn't you like a tastier fruit? Toofer looked puzzled and said,
No, I do not want a tasty fruit. I want that one.
I really don't think you do, Toofer, Pilk said. It'll taste horrible. You see, I saw it in a tree, and I had to beat a crazy ape to it, and then I had to leap out of the tree, and I landed in the smelly old lagoon, which has made the fruit taste, horrible.
You is just telling me a story, Toofer frowned. Let me taste it.
Oh well, Pilk said. You asked for it. I'll cut you a slice, and then you'll see. And he put his hand inside the bag, pulled out a stone knife, and an old piece of leather that he thought might come in handy one day. He made an action, as if he was cutting into the fruit, and then he said, "OK, Toofer, here comes the pterodactyl. Close your eyes. I'll pop it into your mouth. No peeking now." Surprisingly, Toofer obeyed, like a puppy dog obeying its master, and he leaned forward and opened his mouth and closed his eyes. Pilk popped the horrible piece of old leather into Toofer's toothless mouth. Toofer chewed on the fruit, or what he thought was the fruit, and then he made a face like he'd swallowed a wasp.
"Yuck, that is horrible,"
he grimaced, and he spat out the old leather.
"I do not like that fruit."
"Oh, right. So you don't like the fruit I won," said Pilk.
"No," Toofer said. "Go back and get me a new fruit, and make sure it is a nice one too."
"OK, if you insist," said Pilk. "I'll get one for me and one for two. That should be easy to remember."
"Stop hanging about," Toofer bellowed. "I'm hungry."
And he bashed his bashing stick hard on the ground, just in case Pilk had not got the message. "OK, you don't need to tell me twice," Pilk yelped, and he fled in the direction of the lagoon. "I'll be back before you know it." Toofer frowned again
and said, "That does not make any sense. You has too much brains for a person. It just gets in the way of eating food."
And he sat down on the rock and waited for Pilk to bring him back his fruit.